Hello mammals, Ben Woodruff here with Shadow, the great horned owl, with another falconry video here on a lovely snowy October day in northern Utah. This is the time of year I love when it starts to get cold and crisp and the falconry season really starts to take off. It's a good time of year for trapping passage raptors, a good time of year for training, flying, and hunting with your birds. But in today's video, I'm going to talk about owls, their use in falconry, and just about them a little bit in general. Now, I got to start off with by saying, of course, falconers worldwide are an incredibly varied, diverse group of people as far as their experiences, and falconers can be very opinionated, which is understandable. But I'm sharing thoughts and experiences based off of what I had, what I've done with my falconry career, and I hope they prove useful. But I understand there's many different viewpoints and many different ways to practice the sport of falconry. But again, I hope what I have to share is useful for you. So owls. Owls are powerful predators, but they are not closely related to hawks, falcons, and eagles. And even though they're lumped in with a lot of the same equipment, training techniques, and laws in most countries, fact of the matter is their mentality is very different. They've been associated with wisdom since ancient times. We know the Egyptians, the Greeks, and Romans all associated them with wisdom. And with the large eyes, they do look incredibly wise. Most people who have worked with owls for falconry or education or rehabilitation or zoos will tell you they're not very bright. And they'll say, hey, you know, these animals are just kind of... when they're looking around, you can even... Well, she's actually being very alert, but a lot of times when an owl has focused on sound instead of eyesight, you can wave your hand right in front of them, move it to their face, and they won't react, giving the impression that they're not very intelligent. Now, I perpetuated that for a long time as well, and I recant. I take that back. Humans seem to recognize intelligence in other life forms if it is a type of intelligence that we can relate to, that is similar to ours. My son has autism, very severe autism, and as him and I have learned and grown together, he doesn't talk. I have learned that there are different ways that organisms of all types experience the world. Even different people experience the world in different ways, and that's been an eye-opener for me. And then as I've applied that to owls, to understanding owls better, I've seen actually owls are highly intelligent animals. They just think more with their hearing than with their eyesight, and so they demonstrate their intelligence in ways that are not as relatable as it is with falcons, hawks, and eagles. So that's one of the first things you have to understand about owls in any way, is that for most owl species, hearing is far more important. They have enormous eyes that give them night vision, and yet they can tune out vision. Once they've made a scan of a room or an area and they don't see anything of danger or of interest, they almost tune out their vision and focus on hearing. We do the opposite. If you're in a restaurant and it's very noisy, you hear all the other conversations, but you will tune all the other voices out and you only hear the person talking to you. You only process that information. They do that with vision. They tune out other things. Now, when you look at an owl, the feathers on top of their heads are not their ears. These are just feathers. If it's Halloween, you stick them straight up. If you're going to the prom, you slick them back. They're just feathers. Their actual ears are holes in the side of their head. One is higher, one is lower, which gives them three-dimensional hearing because the sound waves reach the ear openings at a different rate. Now, you see the black rings around Shadow's face. Those mark where there is a facial disc that goes all the way leading to the ears. It funnels sound and channels it in different ways. All of these feathers around here, she can bristle and adjust to change how the frequencies hit her ears and how they then process in her mind. Now, the more an owl relies on sound for their hunting, the bigger that facial disc will be. Any owl you ever see, the actual head, the skull, ends at the outer edge of the eyeball. Anything past the eyeball is feathers. So on owls that rely more on eyesight, like the powerful owl of Australia or the burrowing owl of North America, then the facial disc is quite small. And these species almost appear to be more like a hawk. A great horned owl like Shadow here is right in the middle. Her facial disc is important. She does rely heavily on sound, but she's largely a visual hunter as well. Now, the ultimate extreme would be the great gray owl. The great gray owl has a facial disc about the size of a dinner plate, and yet again, its skull literally ends at the outer edge of the eyeball. But these specialists will actually hunt mice under the snow, and so they need to triangulate sound of rodents scurrying under snowbanks, and then the great gray owls will punch through the snow. So, owls in falconry, you will hear a lot of different things, mostly discouraging comments, that they can't be used in falconry, that they're too stupid, that they're not suited for it. Most of the people who say these things also have not tried it themselves. Now, it is true that owls focus more on hearing when they hunt, and so they don't have the snappy reflex typically that you see with a hawk. If you have a goshawk and you're walking along and a jackrabbit flushes up and runs, that goshawk, bam, starts chasing. An owl might not go after something right in front of it if it's not interesting in a hearing type way. Now, that being said, for most owls that are either nocturnal or crepuscular, which is they hunt at dawn and dusk, like a great horned owl, then hunting near dusk or at night, their brain seems to turn on in a way that you never see. Like Shadow right now is looking around. She's casual, listening. There's some songbirds that have come and started tweeting at her from above, and she's looking and listening. But at night, whoosh, they wake up and they bob, and they're in hunting mode. A lot of states you cannot hunt at night. Some states you can. Shadow has successfully hunted jackrabbits at night and at sunset. Now, she's also had some goofy moments. One time she went after and chased and caught a boot. I didn't think there was some grass near it that was rustling, and she thought it was something. She wouldn't let go of the boot and was sure she had something. So there is some merit to saying that owls are not the most effective game hawk if you're looking for a bird to hunt with. But they are powerful hunters, and they are very trainable. In most states in the United States that kind of curtail and regulate which species of owl are used, you often see great horned owls and Eurasian eagle owls on the list. I believe the thinking is these are owls with powerful feet, powerful grip, and are comparable in size, weight, and strength to a red-tailed hawk. So I believe regulations laid down that way are trying to say, hey, it's the owl version of a hawk. That's something we will allow. But I think there's a great missed opportunity. I've trained many, many owls, both for falconry, but also a lot for education. And owls are wonderful education birds typically. They train and usually do very well in a crowd. But I've had the opportunity to work with smaller species of owls, like screech owls, a lot of burrowing owls, saw-whet owls, and northern pygmy owls. And one of the things I have found is a lot of these smaller owls are very gamey. They are very willing to pursue game such as sparrows and starlings. And one species that I really would hope would get some attention and that people would start using as a falconry bird is the northern pygmy owl. Now, despite being small, the northern pygmy owl has a lot going for it as a falconry bird. It has enormous feet for its size. It's largely diurnal, so even though it can hear well, it focuses more as a visual hunter, very similar to like a kestrel. And it is a species that in the wild regularly and intentionally hunts birds. And so if you are any species that has birds as a regular prey item, you know is very good at pursuit-style hunting. So because of this, I would hope that opportunity, I hope to kind of put a bug in the ear of young falconers looking to get into it. Now, one of the things that all falconers hate is having new prospective falconers approach them and say, oh, hey, I would love to get into falconry. I've always wanted to do it. Not really interested in the idea of hunting, but but I'd really like an owl. Will you be my falconry sponsor? That is like nails on a chalkboard to any falconer, because the last thing we want to see is a new young falconer getting in the sport with the idea of just having an exotic bird. And I believe that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of discouraging comments about, hey, don't get an owl as a falconry bird, because you'll end up not hunting it. It'll just end up being a fist-bound pet that you just use to show off. So we don't want that. But that being said, if they are trained properly, and if weight management is actually done correctly and accurately, and if you can give the bird an edge flying it around sunset, you will find that owls absolutely can be wonderful game hawks, wonderful falconry birds, hunting birds. So if you ever are considering one, please just remember, don't do it lightly. This is a species that you should do maybe after you've already had some experience. Not because they're hard to manage, but because it does take extra effort and planning to be able to accurately and effectively hunt with them and actually have them pursue and catch game. So don't take it lightly. If you want to do it, I recommend finding a falconer who actually has caught game with an owl. It's always good to have a voice of experience and some extra help in that. You have to be careful, because if you're flying in the day, hawks and eagles and falcons will do anything they can to knock your owl out of the sky and try to kill it, because owls are natural enemies to these other birds. And so it's another reason you have to be quite careful. So I hope you enjoyed seeing this. Again, check out my other videos on my YouTube channel, and happy hawking.